Welcome to TradeTheNBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 6th of December. And, well, of course, yesterday we had the slight increase again off of that strong rising steel. Big drop in the orange coming back there. We're getting a little rotation here from midterm buyers, short-term buyers. At least the selling has abated some. And that's just because the volume's been sucked up with the new fund money coming in at the start of the month. And we just got right back to that same 3116 level. We're slightly above it now, so that puts the ABM yellow into play there, which is all the way up at the 38 level on the ES. And again, this is going to be the key pivot, staying above the algo at this particular point. It could be difficult for it. We've had a pretty decent run here of the short-term buyers pushing this all the way. Any fade in that certainly is going to create a problem. We'll likely see those algo level supports broken and push right back down to the 76%, which would be the actual gravitation point. Interesting that with all the impeachment and everything going on, the market's unfazed by it whatsoever, as well as the China difficulties, North Korea. There's a lot of things on the potential plate that the market is bypassing simply because they have to chase their return for the end of the year, plain and simple. So you'll see things that will defy logic because it's not the same logic that is being employed from a rational standpoint. This is about making your year-end numbers and looking good. So, because that's more important than anything else, and that's always been the case. We've talked about this year after year, but logic is not always a part of the market's factor. It's about fear and greed. As long as you're okay with that, then you just got to go with what these readings give us. From a euro standpoint, again, it's pushing higher as the likelihood of pro-EU Brit exit setup, which really isn't a Brit exit, is in the works and looking good for the election coming up in Britain. That's going to push us to the higher end of the range, most likely, and particularly after that election, if it goes the way expected. Should be clear sailing for the euro to break back into the 120 range. USO oil. So oil still doing very well at this particular point on this pretty decent push-up. You just had the Saudis and their private industry public, massive IPO. But the failure of oil to fall means that the narrative of the U.S. economic collapse just isn't quite there yet. And from a gold standpoint, that's going to put downward pressure on gold slightly because you're just not seeing the inflation levels that one would expect corresponding to the amount of pump that's going on with liquidity in that. And that gets back into whole other issues of the derivative markets and that. But here we had the ranges. So earlier in the day, let me, if I just scroll back here, let's grab the DOC. We can see we ended up with a nice break. We dipped right back down below the 3109 on our way right to the 3100, but before the 3100 started to catch decent support on very oversold. It was a little early on this, but there was a strong dip signal. Likelihood of retrace coming back to it was there, but the strong rising DOC red just pretty much held it flat within that. So it never really moved from that particular point, and then it started to break higher with the red DOC, reaching back into the 7.5 range, and that lift got a little extreme there and retraced right back to it, but still not as far enough down to capture the full retrace from the dip below the red line at this particular point, and that just caught additional momentum, and it just has provided a move all the way up. Even the 50K Power Mo 2 Opus 2T has a Momo trade going on from back earlier in the lower resistance range, and so here you can see we're caught between that 32 and 17 range. Break below that, likely to hit back at this 9, because every time we seem to come right back to it. I mean, you can see we just consistently sat right on there throughout most of the day while they were acquiring, and that's exactly how the big fish look like when they're doing this on a slow roll. They're just having to get in so that they can do their spike in order to collect as much as possible. to make their numbers look good. As always, though, if there's anything significant or unique that we don't normally see, I will certainly put it on that Skype chat. And you can look for the video report on the Skype chat there. As always, though, trade well. We'll talk to you later.